The issue of attainable workforce housing and affordable housing for retirees is a big issue facing our city. What do you think specifically in the Sarasota City Code is hindering the attainment of an affordable housing stock? What would you do to enhance, remove, or enforce this codification?
Okay. There's a couple things that go into affordable housing, and this is one of the legitimate concerns about going to a different, more expensive review process. And this is not something that I made up over the course of this campaign. This comes from federal HUD policy. When they make recommendations to municipalities in order to increase the amount of federal or of affordable housing, is to streamline a responsible code process so it doesn't cost developers and builders more to build these kinds of units. But what we really need to do is attract those types of builders to this area that want to build these kind of units. And there are issues in our code that we need to address. If you're building an affordable housing unit very close to downtown, and your target audience are young professionals, people that work downtown, you don't need to require that they have 2-car minimums. Things like this. You know, density is another thing. If you increase the density and you give certain areas these allotments or these bonuses, then they're able to build smaller units that are just inherently more affordable. But I personally, what I would like to do is reach out to some of these builders that do specialize. There's folks that specialize in building these kinds of units all over the place, and bring them to some of our lots, bring them to our city and say, what can you do with this? Do you like this site? Wouldn't it be nice if we had some affordable housing here? But, you know, it's an important issue, and I do want to address one thing real quick, if I have the time. This is a traffic issue, okay? Not only is it the right thing to do, because we want to encourage young professionals to live in this town. We want to encourage people that live in this town to work in this town, the police, the firefighters, the teachers. This has become a traffic issue. When I grew up here, our teachers did not commute from Northport every single day. Now we're experiencing these massive traffic jams on Fruitville, Bee Ridge Road, and University at rush hour. Why? It's not because people are just circulating downtown. It's because do we want to be a community where the doctors live here, but none of the nurses and staff? The principals, but none of the teachers. The lawyers, but none of the paralegals. That's what's happened. We've become a commuter city. So we need to start encouraging this type of development to allow people that want to live here, that currently live in Northport Parish, Bradenton, that travel here every single day to get off the roads and live closer to where they work.
Now, they've said about getting rid of people. I'd commit to getting rid of people, no worries. You know, as far as the code and the limitations and affordable housing, Hagen's right. The parking restrictions and the requirements under the code are onerous. They presuppose, you know, so many units of so many cars and so on and so forth. Makes it very difficult. I work the numbers backwards. You know, I've been in business for 33 years, so, you know, I take this slightly differently. I don't talk about what I'd like. I look at what we can actually do. You need to get the unit cost down to about 40 grand. And the reason you need to get the unit cost down to about 40 grand is because a developer will want around about a 15% return relative to his risk and so on and so forth. So if you're talking about $1 a foot and you're talking about smaller units, about 600 square feet, if you work that backwards, $40,000 divided by $7,000, that'll get you to around about 15%. That is a workable sum in a low interest rate environment for somebody to be interested. Now, what do we have to give them in addition to that to make it work? We have to cut the impact fees to zero. We don't need the impact fees. You know, half a loaf's better than none. We need to find some workforce housing, so we don't need the impact fees. As Hagen says, you've got plenty of other money turning up, plenty of other suckers paying $2 million for a condo. So we don't need that extra money. So no impact fees for affordable housing. Sign the contract. Make sure that they absolutely do it, and make sure that they lose it if they don't. And then the other thing is taxes. Again, I don't think we necessarily need to get very much in the way of property tax out of it. I would be looking, again, to ensure that it was a doable thing. something that was going to be able to be workable. And the only way that's going to happen is keep the unit cost down to 40 grand, which necessarily means zero impact fees. It necessarily means keeping the property taxes down going forward to probably around about 25% of assessed value. Those numbers work. All the other stuff is nice. We can hug it out, but it's not going to get us there. So these are numbers, these are the realities, and these are the things I believe that we can do, and we can do them right away.